Okay, and everyone, welcome to the second edition of the Balcony Seat Show. Here's your host, Eric Froschauer, with Andy Miller. Just coming off a huge Indiana victory at Michigan, where Indiana won 80 to 67 handedly, and it shouldn't have even been that close, honestly. Tonight, Indiana shoots looks like 10 of 30 from three land at 33% click. However, we were just on fire from all over the place, and overall, just a very good performance from a very kind of negative outlook coming into the game from a lot of the folks on the Indiana fan base, wondering if this kind of backloaded portion of the schedule would really hurt the Hoosiers moving forward. So, very pleased to say they came through with a huge victory tonight. Maybe Andy, to you with your thoughts on the game.
My thoughts are probably the same as pretty much every Indiana fan out there. Just we start off and we got down early, 10-2 right off the bat. Crowd was, everyone was commenting what a loud atmosphere it was and how into the game the crowd was. They were hungry. Michigan's been playing well. And then it just, around the 10-minute mark of the first half, it just seems like everything started going wrong for them and right for us. And, OG was obviously a huge part of it. You talk about making an impact in only 19 minutes. He was basically everywhere. He did everything you can do and played unbelievable defense, rebounded the ball, scored the ball. If you had to give an MVP for the game, he'd probably be it. But really, everyone contributed. We had games recently with Wisconsin and with Minnesota where it seemed like Bryant, Williams, and Farrell were the only guys scoring the ball. And now tonight, everyone contributed. Everyone chipped in. Everyone played well. And, for about 10, 15 minutes, it was heaven. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I think early on in the game, I noticed at about the 11-minute mark that the Hoosiers had about 5 turnovers. So we were on track and on pace for about 20 turnovers that game. However, we were able to kind of quell that storm. The boys don't have to run the 17s, as Tom Green likes to call it. And overall, I was very pleased. I will say Troy Williams is still one of the most frustrating college basketball players I think there is. Oftentimes putting his head down in the first half, trying to get nowhere, drawing charges. And I was starting to get a little frustrated until we started making some shots and went on a 25-0 run to end the first half. So, again, a little frustrating.
25-0 runs really calm everything down, don't they?
That's right.
They were pretty cool.
That's right. No, and actually we went to 28-0, right? Because OG had the big three at the start of the second half. So I've never witnessed, at least recently, nothing like that 28-0 run that Indiana had. So quite the outlier, I would say.
Yeah, you never want to talk badly about college kids out there giving his best effort, and Troy did a lot of good things tonight. But yeah, early on he was a little bit maybe too amped up and made some mistakes, made some turnovers, and then he got a couple fouls. He went to the bench, and that seems like when Indiana took off. OG came in. Just like, again, everyone contributed. It wasn't the massive explosion that Zeislav had against Minnesota at Minnesota to get us back in that game, where he hit like 4 threes in like a 5-minute span. But Zeislav came in, hit a big three, seemed to kind of calm the waters a little bit, and then it's like Indiana got in their offense a little bit more. Michigan maybe forced a few things. They were playing a little shorthanded too, but whatever. You go into Michigan and get a win, you're never going to complain and never take that lightly. I mean, you look at Providence tonight. They go in and play against a horrible DePaul team and lose. So we know how hard it is to win an in-conference game on the road. And now Indiana has done that at Rutgers. They've done it at Nebraska. They've done it at Michigan. And as we talked about last time, the schedule has not been super, super, super tough yet. But whatever, it is what it is. And at the end of the year, it'll all even out. And you can only play what's on your schedule. And so far, Indiana's done a great job. And really, they are a Wisconsin overtime loss, referee and free throw aided as it may have been, away from being undefeated in Big Ten play. And as it is, they have 1 loss, and there's really nothing wrong with that at this point of the schedule.
Yeah, just to touch on a few of the statistics here from the game. Thomas Bryant being one, really not too effective tonight at 7, 6, and 1. However, the two highest scores were Yogi and Robert Johnson. And Robert Johnson, just want to talk about him for just a moment. I think he really came into his own as the game went on tonight. Was really had the hot hand for a while and really kind of got overshadowed just by the sheer discrepancy in the scoreline during the game. So hats off to Robert for a fantastic game. And then OG Anunoby was the third player in double figures. And as you said earlier, Andy, OG has been the surprise of the season. A lot of people are calling him the next Victor Oladipo, which is maybe a stretch at this point. However, more to be seen from OG. Certainly, I hope that Juwan Morgan turns around as well. As you said, everyone's trying hard on this team, and everyone's really putting in the work in the offseason. But OG really has a great opportunity these next few years to make a huge impact on this program.
Yeah, no doubt. He's been everything we could have asked for and more. And I think Dakic and Tirico touched on it a little bit. You'll lose some players in the offseason, gee, who's going to provide the depth in the front court? And this guy has come out of nowhere. And, the only thing about him now, I mean, even tonight, what did he play? We got him at 19 minutes. You could really make a case that, he should be playing more. It obviously wasn't needed tonight. As you said, the final score not indicative of how one-sided the game was. This is a 20, 25-point win, really. Ended up being 13, but, everyone contributed. Dakic and Tirico touched on, will this lead go up to 30 or down to 10? And, it was interesting because it came out in the second half, and Indiana maybe a few times a little bit trigger happy with the three. Robert Johnson and Troy maybe hoisted up a few shots. You wish it, hey, guys, let's run the clock a little bit. But listen, it's just not how they play. They like to play up and down. They're going to be aggressive. You love the aggressiveness. Crean encouraged them to be aggressive. But even when they were missing some shots, the defensive effort was there. They never got comfortable with a 20, 25-point lead. They kept it up. The final rebounding numbers tonight, 39 for Indiana, 28 for Michigan. I mean, we're not a super big team. Other than Bryant, there's really not a ton of front court size, so everyone has to contribute in the rebound. So, Robert Johnson had 6, Troy Williams had 4, Bryant had 6. Max, shame on us for not talking more about Max last time, but he had 7 rebounds tonight, and we know what tonight must have meant to him. So, really another win where everyone did their part and everyone chipped in and had a part in the game. Everyone from Hartman to Morgan to Beerfield to Bryant, and of course Yogi just being Yogi.
Yeah, from a non-statistical standpoint, Andy, I think one thing that this team struggled to do last year was to put teams away and really drive the nail in the coffin, kind of in the second half of games where we really had that opportunity. Tonight, we drove it in, and we did not let Michigan come back. We did not even think about coming back in this game. So I'm really proud of the team for really putting the games away this year, something that we definitely improved upon.
Message was sent. We saw, Michigan fans, who were very hyped for tonight's game. That was a loud arena to start the game, and they're hitting the exits with 10, 15 minutes to go in the game. They got the sense of this game. It was not going to be some miracle comeback. Indiana was not going to let them get the game back under single digits, and it was just a one-sided affair. I mean, slow start, and then after that 10-minute off, everyone contributed. They really limited the turnovers. Tonight they had 12. They had some sloppy turnovers, but for the most part took care of the ball. Yogi played 37 minutes and had 1 turnover. I mean, that's fantastic from you.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many of those turnovers were in the first half, right? I mean, it seemed like the majority.
I believe it was 8 in the first, 4 in the second. I could be wrong on that, but I mean, you talk about Yogi, and they really don't have a true backup point guard. Robert Johnson can help out a little bit. Colin Hartman can handle the ball a little bit too, but there's really not a ton of ball handling point guard experience on the roster other than Yogi. He played. I mean, we had a blowout tonight, and Yogi still had to log 37 minutes and an unbelievable 9 assists to 1 turnover ratio. You're going to win a lot of games when your point guard does that. They did a great job everywhere. They only got to the line 8 times tonight, and I would probably attribute that to the fact that Michigan was so poor defensively after the hot start they got off to. So another night for Indiana where really there's just Very, very little to complain about.
Yeah, and again, old reliable chipping in, Mr. Colin Hartman. Another solid game, 20 minutes, 5 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and really has been a guy that we can count on game in, game out. I'm not sure without Colin Hartman where this team would be this year. So certainly a great game from a statistical standpoint, from an individual standpoint, and moving forward, maybe from a schedule perspective, just looking forward to who Indiana has to play these next few games here. Looks like just looking at the full schedule. Looks like we've got at Penn State on the 6th, so this week, and then we've got Iowa at home. So Penn State always a somewhat difficult place for the Hoosiers to play. Certainly not an easy win. And then Iowa, which certainly will be a difficult game, whether home or away. Andy, your thoughts on the upcoming schedule in the short term?
I think you'll see a lot about the maturity of this Indiana team and where they are. I think you saw some positive things tonight with the guys staying focused for 40 minutes. But they're going to have to go to Penn State. Like you said, that is going to be a tough road game, as every Big Ten road game is going to be. So they're going to be looking and saying, hey, we got Iowa, we got Michigan State on the horizon. What are they going to put into that Penn State? Because if they overlook the Penn State game, they're going to lose the Penn State game, as they've done there in years past, unfortunately. So we will learn a lot about them on Saturday when they go to Penn State. But yeah, they got to do what they got to do there, get out of there with a win, and then look to the big dogs in the Big Ten, Iowa and Michigan State.
So Andy, just looking at the schedule here, we've got at Penn State versus Iowa, as I said, at Michigan State versus Nebraska versus Purdue, at Illinois, at Iowa versus Maryland. Out of those 8 games, in your judgment, what would be a successful end of the season for IU, and what's realistic in terms of wins and losses for that extra 8 games?
I think this team's going to have their sights set pretty high. They have the Big Ten title within their grasp. I mean, it's been well documented where people saying that they thought the schedule was pretty easy early on. But to answer your question, 6-2, 5-3 going down the stretch would make me happy and probably be good enough to get you at least a share of a Big Ten title. But it's going to be hard. They're going to have to go on the road. There's not one game there where you could point to and say, hey, that's going to be an easy win. I mean, at home with Nebraska could be a game you could say, hey, they should win that game. But again, as we talked about, Nebraska's given us problems in years past. Going to Penn State, that is going to be a difficult game. That's a night game. The crowd will be ready for it. We know Penn State is a football school, but that will be a crowd ready for that game. They will have the game circled, and they would love nothing more than to spoil Indiana's Big Ten season a little bit by winning that game. So as long as they stay focused and kind of take it one game at a time, which we know is a cliche, but they got to do just that. Don't look ahead to Iowa and Michigan State just yet. Focus on Penn State and do what they got to do there to get a win, and then move on to Iowa.
Yeah, so my personal prediction, looking at the schedule, I think we might lose at Michigan State, which is always, as you know, an extremely tough game. You got the zone against you. And then at Iowa, I think, is another loss. And hopefully we put away Purdue at home. And then Maryland to end the season, obviously, with the way Melo Trimble is playing. And Rashid Suleiman, always a difficult matchup. So I think I'm going to predict 3 losses at the end of the season. And as you said, maybe that gets us a share of the Big Ten, maybe it doesn't. But certainly puts us in a great position for seeding in the Big Ten tournament, which we never play well in. And so really not a big deal there. From an NCAA tournament perspective, I think it puts us in a fantastic position and better position than any of us thought we'd be in at this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say to some extent, as of right now, Indiana may lack that one big signature win. You'd like to kind of hang your head on. The Notre Dame game was obviously an excellent win. Tonight was a very impressive win against a Michigan team that's been playing very well recently. So you like to get one of those down the stretch, whether it's, going into Iowa and getting a win, going to Michigan State, getting a win, not going to be easy. How crazy would it be if it came down to the last game of the year where they're playing Maryland, and much like the Michigan game a couple years ago that they showed tonight on TV, where we went into Michigan and got a win on the last day by 1 point to win the Big Ten. It'd be great if it came down to that. But yeah, Purdue, I don't care where that game is. That's going to be hard. They have 2 excellent big men. going to be tough for us. We're going to have to ask a lot out of Thomas Bryant that game. But no, Bloomington's going to be a tough place to play, so it's going to be a matter of, to me, can they steal a road win or two down the stretch?
Yeah, I think people might overlook the fact that this win was so significant tonight. I mean, they played 8 games prior to playing Indiana, and Michigan's only 2 losses were at Iowa and at Purdue. So, nothing to slouch about this win tonight. Michigan, as you said, is an extremely tough environment. However, Crean has had some success against Beeline, so I will give that to Tom. But again, a huge win for the Hoosiers tonight, and couldn't be happier for the guys.
No doubt, no doubt. And the last thing I'd want to say is, Tom Crean, again, has received tons of criticism over the years. Probably like any coach, some warranted, some not warranted. But what he's done with his team, getting these guys to buy in and play defense, everyone knowing their role. I thought he made some great decisions down the end of the Minnesota game. I think of beauty, but they did what they had to do. They got to win. He went to a 2-3 zone late, which got us a couple stops. Not calling a timeout, letting Yogi push the ball and get an uncontested layup for Thomas Bryant. I thought he coached a fantastic final few minutes there to help his team get a win. And then tonight, what can you say? He's done everything, since Maui or since Duke, he's done everything well to get this team in a position to really get a top seed in the tournament.
Yeah, and honestly, I think back to the offseason, Andy, and really wonder if Hunter and Emmett were to have stayed on this team, just imagine some of the depth that we would have, disregarding the loss of James Blackman. But I think we've seen the way that Crean likes to play and run his teams, right? High-powered offenses, and then try to kind of mold the defense as the season progresses. And I think the key will be, can that formula work, and can it have success over the long run for this program? So I think we've seen, from a win-loss standpoint, we've been fairly successful. But can we continue to make some maybe trenches or deep runs in the NCAA tournament field? And I think that will be where the impetus is on for Crean.
No doubt. He will have his work cut out for him. As we know, the schedule will be tough down the stretch. I can't remember. We'd have to look it up. I can't remember. We haven't won at Michigan State very often, if at all, in the Crean era. I don't think anyone really has a ton of success going to Michigan State and winning, but I can't really remember us getting a win there. It's kind of like the Wisconsin House of Horrors. Michigan State's like the evil twin brother there.
I was going to say, I recall a game where I think we were number 2, and we had Oladipo on our team and Zeller, and even that year, I think we almost won at Michigan State, but we couldn't quite pull it out. So,
yeah. No, it's been tough. I mean, listen, a lot of teams. It's like going to Duke. We got our doors blown off at Duke early this year. Guess what? Not the first or last team to go to Duke and get blown out. And I'm sure with Michigan State, I'm sure there's a lot of teams that have had tons of problems going there. But yeah, you'd like to sneak out a win there if you can. This could be, they're playing better, as you would expect they would. The year goes along, but yeah, you'd like to think that hopefully we can still win somewhere on the road down the stretch against one of these better teams.
No, I would certainly think so, that we can at least grab one road victory. And as you said, every single game, whether you're in the MAC or the Big Ten, conference road games are extremely tough, and we'll take any that we can get at this point. So last thing I wanted to touch on, Andy, I know we're looking ahead for the next season already with this statement, but I think of course, Yogi Ferrell will be gone. Potentially Thomas Bryant leaves. Troy Williams, some people are saying, might ditch. And then James Blackman, even some people maybe on the rumor mill saying he is potentially a transfer candidate for next year. So looking at all the variables in this kind of roster that we have and the way that Crean likes to manage his off seasons, how do you see us shaping up for next year in terms of depth and just our overall mix of players?
Yeah, we'd like to see if Yogi leaving, unfortunately, is going to happen. He's the rarity in current college basketball, where he's going to be staying 4 years and really has contributed from day one and even gotten better. every year. A key obviously will be Troy Williams. We can joke about good Troy and bad Troy. We'd like to see him back for one more year. And Thomas Bryant, you'd like to at least get one more year out of him. So I think the key is really what happens with those two guys, if they come back or not. And then obviously the freshman we have right there with OG and Morgan playing really well. They will continue to evolve, much like Oladipo did, where he went from, kind of surprising a little bit as a freshman, and then, wow, hey, this guy's pretty good, and going from, sophomore, junior to being one of the better players in the country. I don't know if, again, like you said, I don't know if we can go there with OG, but you'd like to see a guy that goes from bench player to starter to team leader. The pieces they're replaced, but losing Yogi is going to be a huge loss. You're not going to replace a guy like that very easily. There's no doubt about it. So it'll be tough.
Yeah, and I'm definitely interested to see what happens in the offseason, and just as Crean does, usually oversigns, but after this year, I'm not sure he'll have that opportunity. So it'll definitely be interesting. Of course, we're both focusing on this year and what the rest of the schedule holds. I think your prediction and my prediction, we're going to go 5-3. That's going to be our final prediction for the end of this season, which will put us overall at 24-7. Is that correct, Andy?
I believe. Oh, you're gonna make me do math?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's math. Yeah, 19-4 right now. So yeah, so 5-3, 24-7 would put us at. And listen, if you said 24-7 at the beginning of the year, I would have taken it and went very quietly.
Absolutely. Well, any last thoughts or comments on the game or the season ahead, Andy?
How about Tim Priller getting a round of applause coming into the game on the road? I mean, in Bloomington we expect it, right? But even in Michigan, this guy is a cult hero and getting huge applause coming into the game late. I was hoping he'd get a hoop and no such luck. But we're going to hang in there. He's going to get a basket for the year's end, hopefully.
Yeah, and funny enough, when they brought Tim into the program, I actually had some optimism that he was going to be a decent player. Apparently, I was very wrong. I think I shouldn't say he's not a decent player. He's playing for Indiana, and here I am at home. But anyways, I was expecting him to actually be formidable and be a regular roster spot, but no such luck, I guess. And but I do appreciate the hair and all that Tim Priller brings and happiness to the entire Hoosier fan base.
He makes us all happy. And listen, when he comes in the game, it usually means that we're up by about 20. So we love that.
Exactly. So I think everyone played tonight. I think, and again, I'll have to pull my statistics out here to see, but I think we had Jamison Tharp. He came in. He was a former manager. Tim Priller, Harrison Diego, Ryan Burton, and then Juwan Morgan and everyone else and their brother. So it was a good chance to get some of those guys the minutes. It seems like Crean, more so than some other coaches, will maybe wait until the very last minute.
Yeah.
Put him in, which I don't always understand. It makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
But I'd rather err on that side than the other way.
That's true. That's true.
I'd rather err on leaving the guys in too long than pulling them out and oh, gee, the league's down to 8, and now we get, So, no, I'm with you. I'd rather err on the side of caution. And, again, Yogi played 37 minutes in a real blowout, but I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I don't think I'll hope, at least tonight, some of those minutes it seemed like Michigan had already given up on the game, and hopefully didn't put too many miles on the tires for Yogi, because I think we've got, as you said, real tough schedule coming up, and more to look forward to. But certainly tonight was a great harbinger of things to come for this team. We're both extremely happy, along with the rest of Hoosier Nation. Again, Andy, any last thoughts?
No, that's about it. Again, looking over the stats, just very well balanced. I mean, at halftime, all you could really ask of them is, listen, we're not going to go on a 25-0 to run in this half too. Let's just go basket for basket in this half and play even. And they really did. They ended up losing the second half 43-35, but we all know that really got tilted in the last 90 seconds of the game. But they really did. They did what they had to do, and they kept up the defensive intensity in the second half, and they basically matched Michigan basket for basket. And when you're up by 20 at halftime, that's really all you want to do is play even in the second half, and they did just that.
And my last thought, and maybe much to the chagrin of some Hoosier fans, and I love the guy, I love that he played at Indiana. I love that his son was in the game tonight. But if I ever have to listen to one more Dan Dockich piece of commentary, I might have to just throw my TV out the window. So it's better to have the game on mute when Dockich is commentating, although some of the stuff, some of the comments he makes are accurate. I don't know, Andy. He's just driving me up the wall lately.
He seems to be a guy who kind of believes his own press clippings a little bit. Not afraid to give an opinion. Went to Indiana, obviously, and his son goes to Michigan. You'd like to think ESPN might say, hey, let's get someone maybe a little less, maybe biased is the word. He does seem to his credit, stay on the straight and narrow, go 50-50, not supporting one team or the other. But, geez, they have 5 million announcers. Why not just give us 2 announcers that aren't affiliated with the game and have no kind of bias one way or the other?
Yeah, it seems like every time we watch the Indiana game, it's I would say 50-50 is going to be Dockich announcing. So, anyways, just very, very interesting. And that's my last thought, and I'll leave all the viewers with that. So, with that, Andy, thank you for joining tonight. And thank you, everyone, for watching another exciting edition of the Balcony Seat Show, the IU-UM postgame. Andy, maybe next time we'll be back is after the Penn State game later this week. I take it.
Love to. Hope to see you there, and hope it's after another win.
All right, we'll be back on the day of February 6th. And to all you at home, take care and see you next time.
Good night.